Hello, everybody. I didn't think I was going to make it to you. My computer decided, hey, let's act up right now and see what's going on. So how are y'all doing tonight? I got a regular green screen behind me, so you're just going to have to deal with that because for some reason, my green screen's not working tonight. So hopefully you all can hear me. Let's do a sound check, an audio check, make sure everything is going right. And welcome. Thanks for joining me this evening. I greatly appreciate all of you. Hopefully everything is going well. Thanks for dropping in. Sorry about last week. This is getting to the time of the season where I've got some virtual shows coming up. The Canadian Wood shows. I've got a Klingspor show. I got a drive out to Indiana and do a live user group meeting, Digital Woodcarver owner user group meeting. So getting all those classes ready, getting the booths ready and the camera set up and all for the live virtual show, not live, live virtual show. I guess that's how you would say it. Getting all of that stuff ready and everything is just slamming me this time of month. This time of month I get hit hard. So apologize about last week not having a class. Just time did not permit. And so yeah. And this week, for tonight's class, I decided to I had a couple of projects I wanted to talk about and go through. And then I also put out on Facebook, hey, what topics do you want to cover? And for the Digital Woodcarver owners, a majority of the topics was tramming the Digital Woodcarver 2440. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and I'm going to explain to them how to tram the DWC 2440. But at the same time, we're going to be doing some designing and stuff as well, because someone wanted to know about how to add text to an STL model, right? A very simple thing, but people don't know. So we're going to show that. I'm going to show you a project, a couple of, I guess you could call them holiday projects, or a couple of holiday projects that could get done. And we're going to talk about bit selection for these projects. So it'll kind of give those individuals that wanted to know about how to choose the right bit for the job. Pay attention to those parts, and we'll make sure we choose the right bits for the projects, and we'll explain that some. So what I want to do is let me get my display settings correct for you guys, so everything is nice and big on the screen for you. Let me adjust those, and we will jump right into it. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask. All right, let's see here. Okay, okie dokie. Let's get Vetric on the screen. There we go. All right, let's hide that box. All right, so everyone says the sound is good, so that's great, wonderful. The first thing that I want to do is I watched a design and make project, and let me make myself bigger here for a second. I watched a design and make project. I think it was one of the free projects, or it might be a model that you have to download. But the guys over at Design and Make, they made this pillbox. Now, Design and Make consists mostly of models, three-dimensional models that you import, and you do a model cut. 3D rough cut and 3D finish cut to cut these models. And the approach and the result of the pillbox and everything was fine. Let me pull up the picture of what they were doing. Let's see here. Design and make pillbox and make. And I'm assuming it's called a pillbox because people can put pills in it. I don't know. But let me pull this tab over onto the screen here. And let me make the screen bigger. Bigger. And so this particular pillbox here, and they got different pillbox lids and stuff like that, like this one here. They're 3D models, and I can understand the lid being a 3D model, but the whole box was. The entire box was a 3D model, and it was carved with a 3D rough cut and a 3D finish cut. And the procedure worked fine, but I thought, what if I didn't want to do it as a 3D model, and I just wanted to make a simple, cool little pillbox with a decorative lid with just regular tool paths, regular tools and regular tool paths, and achieve the same results. And lo and behold, we done it. So here we go. So we're going to talk about that first, then we're going to get into tramming. So stick around if you guys or girls are wanting to talk about or learn about tramming. If you're watching tonight, because that was one of your suggestions, we're going to talk about that. But let's get into this pillbox project. Very quick and simple project to put together, and you can do all kinds of neat things with it. Now, the only special bits that you would need to make this would be for the finger holes on the side for lifting the lid off. A 1/2 inch diameter box core bit. So that's a round, 1/2 inch diameter box core bit would be the only specialty tool. Other than that, we're going to be using an end mill, 1/4 inch end mill. And we're going to be using a 16th inch tapered ball nose, or even an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose, and you'll see where those come in a moment. But I'm going to go with a 16th inch tapered ball nose, because I'm not only going to be using that for the profile cut to give my box a little bit of a slanted angle coming in based on that 5.4 degree of my bit, but also to be able to do the 3D carving on the lid. Okay. And hey, Brian Kazera, welcome. All right, so let's get full screen here, and let's look at our project setup. Our project setup it's very small, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 by a 1/2 inch, or I'm sorry, by 3/4 of an inch thick for the base of the box, and then 3/8 inch thick for the lid. So let's start with the base of the box first. I'm going to be referencing off the material surface. And I'm going to start from the bottom left corner. You can start from anywhere you want, but those are the 3 settings that I'm working with here. 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 by 3/4. Great little project for scrap wood. And no clamping, guys. Use double-sided tape, 2-sided tape to hold this project down. It'll be just fine with 2-sided tape. You don't really need any clamping or anything like that. Now, so 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 by 3/4 inches is going to be the base. And then we would have another piece that would be the same size, but 3/8 of an inch thick for the lid. We don't want the lid to be too thick, right? So let's click OK here. And I'm going to go and turn off these 2 models for a minute so we can look at our simple vectors. Now, drawn on the center of the screen here, I have 3 circles. And the main outer profile circle, this is currently set to a size of 2.5 inches in diameter. Okay, now you can go 2 3/8, whatever. I just went 2.5. Now from there, that circle was offset by 1/8 of an inch. So, oops, let me pop that. Let me pop that drawing tab back into place. Get back in there. Using the offset tool, simply offset this inward 0.125, okay, to create that offset circle inward. All right, and let's do this one. We want this one, offset inward, okay, and that's going to create that one there. Now, I don't want that duplicate there. I'm just showing you here. Now, once this one is created, we're going to offset inward another 1/16 of an inch from there. So 0.0625. Okay, so we're going to offset another 1/16, and that'll create our 3 rings, and that's all we need for this project. All right, so we draw a circle at 2.5, offset it inward an 1/8, and then another 1/16, and we're good to go. Now we're going to draw a line right across the center of the project. Okay, just a simple straight line right down the middle of the project. And that is it for the vectors for this design. So let's go over and look at the toolpath. And again, a great scrap wood project for, you know, a great scrap wood project for different things and all. So let's go ahead and bear with me a second while I get my tabs squared back up here. There we go. All right. So to start off with, we're going to do a pocket cut on the inside of this project. Let's go into the 3D view and let's take a look at this. Okay, let's go into the preview. And we're going to start off with a pocket cut. That's going to cut 5/8 of an inch deep, and we're going to open up the toolpath once it's done running. Let's open it up and look at it. Starting at 0, we're cutting 5/8 of an inch deep. That's going to leave us about 1/8 of an inch for the bottom of the box, which is plenty thick enough for the bottom of the box. We're going to simply use a 1/4 inch end mill. We're doing an offset cut, round and round and round. And, you know, we calculate that out and create that pocket. Now we're going to do an inner profile cut, and that's going to be on this vector here that's selected pink, this inside vector right there. And it's going to be a profile toolpath, 1/8 of an inch deep, cutting on the inside of the line with a 1/4 inch end mill. Okay, cool. So let's go back into our 3D view and let's look at that. So let's go back in our preview, and on our profile cut, that is going to go through and create this little lip that the lid's going to fit into. Right? And then let's close this for a minute. And I'm going to pop out my, by double clicking on the word toolpath here, it pops out this little window so I can work with this window here, because when I'm in a big screen, I can't see my toolpaths when I have things open. After that profile cut, we have another profile cut, and this is going to be with the box core bit. Okay, so this is going to be cutting 1/8 of an inch deep with that 1/2 inch box core bit, and it's going to be cutting right across that line. Shoot, right across that line. Okay. And you could actually run this toolpath like first, so that you're only changing bits once from this toolpath to the 1/4 inch end mill. That way you don't have to go back and forth in changing your bits. But if we take a look at that profile cut, that's going to cut this groove right here. Okay, it's just going to cut right across, and it's 1/8 of an inch deep, 1/2 inch diameter box core bit, and this is going to create little finger holes for lifting off the lid. Okay, all right, cool. Now on the final, there's two final profile cuts in a sense that it's going to be starting to cut this part out, but one of them is a ball nose bit. Now in the design and make project, the top of their box kind of angled out slightly as it got down about, I would say, a 1/2 inch. And then for the rest of the 1/4 of an inch, it was a straight cut down. So it kind of gave the top of the box a little bit of an angle cut. And when you're creating it as a model, you can create that angle however you want. You know, and all, like they did in the video. And it's a great video. It's a cool project. You can buy it at designandmake.com. I think it's a buy model, not a free model. But I wanted to achieve the same thing with that slight angle, and I needed to approach it differently. So this is where we start thinking about approaching. How do we approach things, you know, to make them? And I know that my tapered ball nose bits, they are just as capable as an end mill of removing a massive amount of material, and they're also for detail cuts on 3D model cuts and things. Well, I want to remove material. I'm doing a profile cut. Now, I'm only cutting a 1/2 inch deep with this, but I'm using my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose bit because it has a side angle of 5.4 degrees. Now, this flute on this tapered ball nose bit, it's a 1 inch flute. Okay, 1 inch cutting flute, then it goes into the 1/4 inch shank. Well, I'm only cutting a 1/2 inch deep, so I'm using the bit specifically. I'm using the bit specifically for the purpose of creating this slight angle. Instead of a straight cut down, I want a slight taper to it. And so I'm using the tapered ball nose bit. So we're starting at 0. Let's hit cancel on this. We're going to have a cut depth of a 1/2 inch. We're going to use our tapered ball nose bit, and your tapered ball nose bit might have a different angle depending on the brand or whatever. Mine's 5.4 degrees. We're going to be on the outside of the cut, and this is for our outer profile here, our outer profile. And we are going to calculate that tool path, and let's preview that. Tool path. Now you should see, as it starts cutting down deeper, you should see that top start thinning in more and more, kind of based on that angle for each pass that it takes, because we're at the we're halfway at the pinnacle of that 5.4 degrees, you know, overall. And so we have this tapered cut that creates that taper. Now, because of that taper, right, I've got this bit, this 1/8 inch tapered ball nose bit cutting on the outside of the line. And because of that taper, there is a bit of an offset for that taper. So my next tool path is going to be my 1/4 inch end mill doing the final cut through. But while I'm cutting through, if I don't account for that offset a little bit, then I'm just going to cut a straight cut and cut that taper right out of there that I just put in there. So for this tool path, same vector, we're going to cut 3/4 inch deep using our 1/4 inch end mill on the outside of the line, just like before. But now we're going to use an allowance offset. So if we look at this allowance offset in a solid view, that means that my end mill from my profile line here, my end mill is cutting away from that line by 1/16 of an inch to account for that 5.4 degree. Okay. And it's going to account for that, that taper. So if we look at this cut in the 3D view, if we come in here and preview this cut, all right, and let's click on our waist here. All right, let's look at this in a kind of an X view. Now, don't worry about this lip. We're about to get rid of that lip that's on there, that lip you see, but don't worry about that right now. But if we look here, the end mill, and let's zoom in nice and big for you guys. The end mill did a straight cut 1/16 of an inch away, you know, cutting that profile out to create that bottom base. And then my ball nose bit cut on the line to create that taper at that 5.4 degrees. So we get this nice kind of tapered box. But because my ball nose bit is not a straight bit, it's got a radius at the end of it here. It's got a radius. It has left a lip right here. It's left a lip right here. And so to accommodate for that, we have a profile cut that, let me see, wait, let me find the right profile. This one here. We have a profile bit that's cutting on the outside line. Now it's starting down at 0.45. We've already cut down a 1/2 inch for that ball nose bit. And we're cutting down at 0.45, starting there, and then we're cutting another 0.3 for that total of 3/4 of an inch, that 1/4 inch end mill. And then we are still cutting on the outside line, but this time we are offset by 0.0425. Now someone's going to ask me, hey, can we just eliminate the first one that had an offset of a 1/16 of an inch and just do it at 0.0425? Yes, you can. But when I created this, I created both toolpaths, and I just want to kind of explain the process. Because when I did it first, I had this lip, and I said, okay, let's go 0.0425, and let's, calculate that toolpath, and let's preview that and see if it cleans up our edge a little bit. And so as it goes through and cuts, it's going to smooth off and clean off that edge. So now we have this little simple tapered box. Now, someone like I said, someone may ask, hey, can I just eliminate this profile toolpath that has the 1/16 of an inch offset and just do this one? Well, let's take a look. And yes, you can, but let's take a look. Let's come in here, and we're going to preview 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to skip that one and go to there, and we're going to preview those visible toolpaths. So we'll have that pocket. And again, since that's a 1/4 inch end mill, if you don't want to change back and forth your bits, you could do this next toolpath, which is the finger hole and all that. You could do that first before you do anything else. So we have our little finger groove. We have our tapered ball nose bit that is creating that taper for that nice little tapered. And it just gives the box a little bit of a decorative shape. It's not so just plain and round. It's got a little bit of a shape to it, right? And then we have our final profile cut, cutting with that 0.0425 offset, and looky there. So we didn't even need to have the other toolpath, the other profile cut with the 1/16 of an inch offset. But when I was designing this to be able to show it to you, I had created it just as, that. So this is the base here. Now, before we move on to the lid, let's answer a question. Let's see here. All right, not for Laney, so that one's not for me, but let's answer Steve's question. Could you a 1/2 inch round over instead of a box cutting bit? So the round over bit, Steve, would give me rounded over edges and everything. The box core bit is think of a cove bit, if you will. It's a box core bit because I want to cut out these finger holes. I wouldn't use a round over. A round over would be an opposite cut. It would be a concave versus a convex. Wait, I'm sorry. It would be a convex. A round over would be a convex versus a concave. And I want this concave cut here. Okay. So I want my 1/2 inch diameter box core bit to just come and cut that. So I have those finger holes. And, you can order them on Amazon, toolstoday.com. There's all kinds of places that have 1/2 inch diameter box core bit to create those little finger holes. All right, so good question, Steve, but a round over would not be the appropriate tool for this. A round over would give me nice smooth edges, rounded over edges if I wanted them, on the outside of the box, but they would not give me the concave cut that I want. Okay, I need that concave cut, not a convex cut. All right, so very cool. All right, now let's talk about the lid. So in the same project, I'm going to use the same project, even though my material is 3/8 of an inch, right? 3/8 of an inch. I'm still going to use the same project to kind of keep things in the same screen for you guys and girls. But our lid fits inside this inner circle here, and it rests on that lip that was created right there. So it closes in. Now this lid could be in the video, the design and make video, when they were making that video, the lid was a loose lid. It was a loose fit. There wasn't, it wasn't a friction fit or anything. It was just kind of like it's not like a childproof type of thing or whatever, it's just something to store little things in, little pills or whatever. They call it a pillbox, but it could be pretty much anything, a little keepsake box. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the lid have a little bit of a friction fit. And I can adjust that fit to where it's a, it's just a nice little suction, nice fit in there, or I could make it loose to where it just lifts right off, whatever the case may be. But this inner vector is the vector we're going to shape our models to. Now, for the models, very simply, I'm in VCarve Pro, so I can't model, right? I can't build models and things. Let me bear with me a second here. My tabs are all screwy. There we go. In my modeling here, I have two models that I imported from the clip art. From the clip art gallery, from the domes and dishes, I'm using a 30-degree dome, just a nice, subtle, curved dome, okay? And I've got that dome sized down to fit inside my vector. So that dome is 2.4. Let's go to our drawing tab and look at the size of this, 2.2499. So my circle is 2.5, or my outer circle is 2.2499, what it ended up being. My model, I've got it 2.25. I want it to be just a little bit of a friction fit. And you're like, well, wouldn't it be more of a friction fit because your model's actually bigger than your part? Well, yes and no, but if we look, there's already a gap difference there, even at that, right? So I've got my model just slightly bigger, not much, only, I mean, shoot, 1/1000th of an inch or something like that. And from there, I can, when I'm doing the profile cut to cut the lid out, I can kind of play with that profile cut, my offset allowance, and get the fit exactly how I want. Or I could cut it large and then just sand it to the perfect fit, whichever way floats your boat. But let's look at this. Let's go in the 3D view here, and let's close out our preview to get back to our model here. And on the dome, the 30-degree dome, I have the dome that's going to no limit. So that's just this top part here. It's just a 30-degree, a slight curved dome. But I've got a base height. If you remember that lip that we cut down, that pocket cut that we cut for that lip, or I'm sorry, that inside profile cut, the depth of cut was 1/8 of an inch, right? And so on my base of my model here, I have 1/8 of an inch base so that I have that flat area that's going to fit down in the box, and then my dome is kind of raised up above the lid ever so slightly, right? Okay. And so, now with this dome, from here, this is a blank slate. We could do many things. We could add another model to it to give it a decorative design. We could carve text in there. We could do monograms. We could do whatever. Now, one of the questions, this would be the same thing as an STL model. So someone asked me to show how to put text on a STL model. Well, any model, when you are trying to cut text on a model, you have to project that toolpath onto the model, which we're going to talk about. So even though I didn't import this as an STL and it's a .v3m Vectric model, it's the same thing. Okay. So in our drawing tab, I'm going to come in here and with my text, I'm going to go 1 inch tall text. Let's drag that box down here for right now. We'll get it centered in a minute. And let's grab a font. And let's say that, I don't know, let's say that the person's initial is a B, right? Or you want to put their name. Now, one thing that I would do if I was going to put their name, I would go with a larger B, and then I would go the smaller, right, whatever their name is, right? And let's give them a proper name. We'll go, not proper name, but we'll go Barry, right? Let's say that that's their name. All right, let's get it appropriate, like it looks like they got to go together. Okay. All right, and then in here, I want to go ahead and center this on my lid. Okay. Now I could do something a little decorative up here. I could put a little model or something, a little decorative, something. I got all this space that I could play with. I could do a little flourish in here, all kinds of things to really dress up this lid, right? But for right now, we're just going to carve this name in the lid, and then we're going to go back and look at another, adding a model to it. So over here in the tool path, we would have a 3D finish cut. You'd probably do a rough cut first, right? Let's do a rough cut to cut the dome out. So let's be proper about this. We'll do a 3D rough cut. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. I'm going to use the model as the boundary. I'm going to allow 40,000 7-inch allowance between my rough cut and my finish cut. So my finish bit has some work to do. I'm going to do a Z-level raster, and I'm going to raster along the X-axis. I like cutting with the grain. So whatever direction your grain is flowing, I like rastering along the grain. And I'm going to calculate this tool path. Okay. Let that calculate that rough cut. And then we're going to create our finish cut as soon as it's done. Bum, 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 bum. I probably, on something this small, I probably could have got away with doing it as an offset cut. I probably could have got away with an offset cut, but I like carving with the grain. So that. Brian Kazera, that's a nice font, Laney. Is that a paid font? Yes. This is the part of the Heritage collection of fonts. It was, I don't know, $26, and I got dozens of nice Heritage collection fonts, Heritage style fonts and everything. And so the yes, it is a paid font. It was one of those font ads that was on Facebook. I saw it, said, hey, you know what? I like that. So I clicked on the little ad and bought it. Now, if we notice here, it said that the depth of cut for the model, and let's go back and look at our model here, our model position in our material, and that's what the problem was. My bit, I got a warning while I was talking to Brian and answering his question. I got a warning about, the cut size. This model here should be at the top of the part, and in this case, the part's going to be 3/8 of an inch for this. And I am going to put a little skin of 10,000 7-inch, so I don't get any flat spots in the middle of my dome. I want a nice dome. So that model was down too far. That's why it was taking so long to process and everything. So the model wasn't positioned properly. So now I can come in here and recalculate my 3D cut toolpath. And it should zip along much. That's the 3D finish. Hold on. We don't want the 3D finish yet. I'm not ready for the 3D finish there, buddy Rowe. I want the 3D rough cut. Rough cut. Okay, let's go down and calculate that again and let that run through. All right, so we're almost there. Any questions you guys and girls have, pop it in. Pop the questions in and we'll answer them. All right. You would think for a small lid that it wouldn't take this long to process, but what's going to happen is I'm going to get a warning saying that the model's not thick enough for the rough cut. I know it just by the way it's acting, it's going to say that my pass depth is too deep. Yeah. Check the pass depth for the tool that exceeds the machining. So the model basically doesn't require, that dome is so small, it doesn't require a 3D rough cut. Okay. And I should have known that just by, I knew it from how slow it was processing this small model that was, trying to figure out how to rough cut this thing, but it just couldn't. It's just too small. It's just, the model's very thin. So we're going to go straight into the 3D finish. The 3D finish, I'm using a tapered ball nose bit here, 16th inch tapered ball nose. And boundary offset is going to be 0. We're going to calculate this toolpath and let that run through. So the model being it's only a 30-degree dome, and it's right at the top of the material. So the cut is probably no deeper than, oh gosh, I would say maybe a 32nd. So it did not require a rough cut. It did not require a rough cut on that project and everything. Now, if it would have been maybe like a 45 or a 60-degree dome or something like that, which would be too obnoxious for this lid, then it would have required I probably could have done a rough cut around those outer edges and things, for sure. So once this processes and everything, then we'll do our V-carve toolpath, and we'll project that V-carve toolpath onto our dome, onto our 3D model, so it follows that curve and contour. And that's how you would add text to a model. You just want to project, and you'll see that in this next toolpath here. All right, awesome. So on our lid here, we've got just a very, very simple dome cut to create just a nice gradual dome. It'll be a nice, pleasant looking lid and everything. Okay. All right, we'll let that run through, and then we'll work on our text. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Troy. Hey, Darwin. Hey, everybody. All right. Thanks for popping in, guys. I appreciate all of you. There's 61 viewing us tonight. That's good. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to come hang out with me. All right. So we got a very simple, nice little curved dome. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into our text here. With it selected, we're going to go into a V-carve toolpath. We're going to start at 0. Always start at 0 when you're projecting into the toolpath, okay? When you're projecting onto a model, start at 0. I'm not going to do any flat depth on this cut. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit, and I do not need an end mill or a flat area clearance tool or anything. So just my 60-degree V-bit, but this is the key thing right here. Project toolpath onto 3D model. So that's going to project the toolpath so that text curves with that model lid. Okay. So it curves with that model lid. And let's kind of turn this around and everything. And let's preview that cut. And so, you know, and again, we could be so much more creative, and we could put some little flourishes or little decorations in here, and we could really dress that lid up to just make it pop, right? But that's just, you know, one of the things. Now, for our final profile cut, we have our final profile cut that's cutting that lid out. So let's go in and preview that. Okay. And we have just a very simple basic lid to fit into our pillbox, right? Well, let's dress it up a little bit. Now that we know that we can take text and we can project that text to follow that curve, we can project that text to follow that curve, project onto toolpath. That is the key to adding text to a 3D model. Project the toolpath onto the 3D model, right? Let's dress it up a little bit. Let's take Barry, and we'll just move that aside for right now. And let's look at another model that I grabbed in this flourish model here. Let's go into our 3D view here. And so I've got that flourish added. So if we look at the modeling tab here in my component tree, the flourish is combined with the dome in an add mode. And if you guys and girls remember me explaining the add mode, when you add a model to another model, it's like taking a sheet, a bed sheet, and draping it over a car. That sheet is going to conform and take on the shape of the car that's underneath it. So that's exactly what our top model, our flourish here, is doing, is it's conforming to the dome that's underneath. If I would have set this to a merge, then my model would have retained its thickness, and then I would have to give it base height. I'd have to come in and give it base height to raise it up, and it's no longer, let me raise it up some. A little more, and even more. Okay, so that model's not wrapping. Now it's thinner in the middle because that's the highest part of the dome, but the outer part is thicker. And let's get back into a full view. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize I wasn't in a full view. So by having this as a merge, the model's not taking on the shape of that dome. It's got its own shape. And, you know, part of this model is buried at the height peak of that dome there, and the other part is exposed because it's you know, that dome curves, but this model's not curving, and so it's not an appropriate toolpath. You know, or it's not an appropriate combination. We want to combine, as we want a 0 base height on this model, and we want to add it to the dome that's underneath. So it creates that nice curve. So it curves with that lid. Okay. So it curves with that lid. And there, even in your clip art, under the decorative category, there are so many cool decorative models that have a round shape or some type of shape to them that would fit in that round lid, that they would curve nicely, you know, or they would kind of fit or be appropriate with this lid. Or we could do, you know, a combination of smaller models and things. But let's go over and look at the toolpath here, and let's go with our 3D finish again. I'm going to go back into my job setup, and now my model is just about as thick as my material, right? Just about as thick as my material. I'm still going to put that 0.010 of an inch over there. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to say no, I don't want to recalculate all of my tool paths right now, but I do want to recalculate the finish cut. Okay. I want to recalculate that finish cut to add in this new visible model that was created. Now, while that's calculating, let's look at what Carl's comment is here. Carl says, I made one of these boxes for my wife to put her wedding rings in while doing dishes, right? My snug fit turned into a tight fit and had to use channel locks to get it apart. Right. Exactly. So, and that's a great, I didn't even think about that. A lot of times women or even men too, if they're wearing jewelry when they're doing dishes, they might want to take that jewelry off. And one of these little boxes is a perfect, cute little place to keep those things so they don't get lost or fall down in the sink or whatever when you're doing dishes. So cool idea, Carl. Great concept to use. But yeah, the tight lid turned into, the snug fit turned into a tight fit, probably because of expansion and contraction. Maybe with the moisture being near the sink and everything, the moisture in there, it might have, contracted or expanded, expanded, not contracted, but expanded, and made it a very tight fit. Or there could have been other reasons, right? It might have been a tight fit from the carving, right? So we want that fit that's going to be good. Now, if someone's if we're using it for that type of, hand washing, take the rings off type of thing, jewelry off, then we probably want a loose lid. Just a lid that we can just easily lift off. We don't have to lift the whole box off the counter and grab it by the base and pop the lid out. We want to just be able to grab the lid off and drop our jewelry in and put the lid back on. So we'd want it to be a loose fit. And so it's, that's just another cool concept. All right. So, let's go ahead and let's look at our, come in here and let's reset our preview and let's look at our 3D finish again with this newly designed model here. So let's preview that visible toolpath. yeah, there you go. He comes in, or my wife dropped it in the water and didn't tell me, right? Swelling. It swelled. It just swelled up all by itself. Well, humidity can do that, but dropping it in the sink could do that as well. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt, Carl, and we'll say humidity. It was humidity. Or we'll make her look good and we'll make ourselves look bad and say, honey, I just didn't get the fit right when I made the project. I tried my best, and I wanted to do something nice for you. And this is the best that I could come up with. And hopefully my best is good enough for the love of my life. See what she says to that. If she says, no, it's not, go fix it. Then, put her in the doghouse. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So we've got that lid cut out there, and let's go ahead and do the final profile cut to cut that out real quick. And so once again, we've got, it's just a nice little decorative lid. It's got a nice little stylish top. So imagine combining this with, and I wish I could do both of them at the same time. I wish I could, show both the lid and the part at the same time. But let's select all of these guys here and let's recalculate the visible tool paths real quickly. All right, and let's go in here and preview our base one more time. Preview the visible tool paths. And so we've got that nice little, cute little decorative lid. Very simple, a dome model and a nice little flourish model. The base uses an end mill, a box core bit, and a ball nose bit to cut out this little base. This project could be knocked out any scrap wood. It's only 2 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. You use double side tape to hold it down so we don't have to worry about clamps and things like that. And we've got a nice little, and I showed that extra toolpath that we didn't need. I'll end up deleting that out of the list. But so we got a very simple, cute little box. Let's kind of zoom in. And then we had that decorative lid to go with it, right? So very simple project. Let's look at some carve times, and let's see kind of an estimate of some of the carve times and everything. So let's go. We'll make me small. The minus. Let me get rid of the one toolpath we don't need. This one right here. Delete that. All right. So all of the lid and let's get rid of the text. We'll just focus on the model right now. Delete this. Text will be much quicker. But you're looking at 26 minutes. The whole thing. The base and the lid. 26 minutes. Now that's based on my feeds and speeds, right? Most of these cuts are 48 seconds, 10 seconds, 6 seconds, a minute, 48 seconds, 43 seconds. That's the entire base. You know, the 3D finish cut was the longest, 22 minutes, and then the profile cut, 35 seconds, right? Very quick and simple. I mean, you could knock out giveaways, knock out. Very simple. And glitch on my screen. I'm not sure what that glitch was, but now Troy comes in and says, did I miss something? Shouldn't this be a two-sided project for the recess and the base? Nope, not at all. So you're thinking of a different style box, where we have to carve the bottom side to fit in there. This box, let's turn these toolpaths off. Okay. This lid with a flat bottom. Okay. This lid just drops down into this base. Just drops down right in there. There's no two-sided to it. No need for it at all. Not a bit. Now, if I had a pocket on the bottom side where I had to create a recess so the lid was flush with the top of this, you know, then yeah, I'd have to do a two-sided job. But that's not the design of that box. So great question. Just let's see here. Box. Let me see if I can see a. Here we go. Bear with me a minute. Let me pull this. Work it. Let me find there we go. That's the picture that I'm wanting to see. I don't know what all that's about. I must have clicked something right here. So the lid, I don't know if you guys can see that picture very well, but hopefully you can. The lid just drops down in that recess, right? Now this box doesn't have that taper. It's just a straight cut box. It doesn't have that taper at the top. But this one, they've done a little bit fancier. It's got that taper. You know, in things and everything. So it's just a little coin box, that type of thing. But these are 3D models. You can go to Design and Make, and you can buy the 3D models and things, and and all that. And here's the model at the designandmakestore.com, right? Well, I wanted to approach it without it being a model cut, without having to cut this as a model cut and everything, where that ball nose bit is coming and back and forth. And let me turn this sideways. That ball nose bit is coming from the bottom, cutting up, and inside that cut, coming up, back and forth. And it's doing the pocketing. It's doing everything. It's creating this groove. And I don't know how long that carving runs for this small of a project and everything, but I can't beat it as a 2D project. I can't, this 26-minute project here for the lid and everything has got to be much shorter. Yeah. All right. And now all right. Carl says, is there a way to cut threads on this project so the lid would screw on and off? Right. So, that would be taking advantage of the thread milling toolpath here. And let's get rid of that question. Let's go back to our 2D view. Now, on the thread milling toolpath, you're either going to use a single thread milling tool. Let's look at our different tools here. And I don't have any tools in there. Let's see if... I don't have any thread milling tools set up, but it's either going to be a single point tool or a multi-threaded tool, and there's two different machining strategies for each one. I highly encourage that you watch the Vectric video on thread milling. It's a great tutorial, explains it and everything. But in this case, our start depth would be 0. Our maximum cut depth, we're going to have to go more than 1/8 of an inch deep, because our bit has to be able to exceed to do those thread cuts. So we would probably, depending on our thread mill cutter, we'd probably be about 1/4 inch or more with that. As far as the tool, we can use a single point tool or a multi-thread. And let me show you the difference between the two. Thread milling bit. And let's go to images. All right, let's pull this over here. Whoa. Okay, so coming down here, let's click on this image here. And I wish it was as big as it was on my screen. Well, here, actually, let's look at this image. This will be kind of an image in the cut. So a multi-threaded tool basically has multiple threads, and you do it in one pass. Just a pocket cut in one pass, and it cuts all the threads in one go. A single point threaded tool has a single thread cutter, and that has to take multiple passes. That thread cutter has to take multiple passes around and around and down and around based on those helical arcs and everything to cut those threads out. Now, when it comes to multi-threaded tools, such as these here, like this multi-threaded tool here, you're not going to find that at Home Depot, or Lowe's or anything like that. You're not even going to find them at toolstoday.com. I haven't found any thread milling tools at Tools Today. They're going to be brands that you've probably never heard of. And to give you a general idea, a single point tool runs around, like an MSC Industrial, runs around $60 or so. Your multi-threaded tools are going to be well over $150. So single thread point tool about 71, and your multi-threaded tool, let me see here let me find a good multi-threaded tool. They don't even have good pictures here. Let's go back. back. Whoa, went too far. Where'd you go? All right. Multi-threaded cutter, that one's $277. This one's $295. So they're not cheap. They are not cheap bits at all. So this bit right here, OGS end mill bit right here, this multi-thread tool, I believe it's around $195. I don't even think they even put a price on this page. No, I hate the websites that don't put the price on it, but that's about $175 or more. So if you get into cutting threads, your single point threads or your multi-point threads and everything, and you want a 60-degree taper, 60-degree taper thread cutting bit, 60-degree side angle thread cutting bit. If you're going to get one, that would be what I highly recommend it, because it's going to be more universal for like your 1/4-20s, your your metric cuttings, your universal, tool sets, United tool standards, like your, 1/4-20, 5/16, 18, number 6, number 8, number 4s. And these are all presets that you can choose from that'll preset and things. But take a look at the video on threading. But yes, you could cut an outside thread on that lid and an inside thread in that pocket of the base, and you could create a screw-on lid. Okay. Now, Ronald, same as me, Ronald, got a single cut thread cutter from Magnate. Now that is a 90-degree thread cutting bit. And that's good for larger threads and stuff. But when we're getting into actual, like, if I want to cut threads for like a 1/4-20 bolt to fit into, or, things like that, then I want a 60-degree bit. Because I have the same bit as you, Ronald, because it's the only bit that Magnate sells. And just like Todd threw up here, the Magnate 796, that's the exact bit. That's the only one they sell. And it's a 90-degree angle. And that's great for large, like if you're making vices, like bench vices, workbench vices where you have that big threaded rod, or you're making big wooden thread nuts and bolts. That's all great. But if you're getting into, you want to cut threads for screws to fit into, you're making fasteners, wooden fasteners for actual metal bolts and stuff to fit into, you want a 60-degree thread. Okay. All right. 60-degree angle. Right. Yeah. Anyway. But yes, you could. So that was a great question. It opens up the topic of a lot of different things that you could do with these boxes. And if you've got the appropriate bit, you could absolutely cut threads in there for sure. And things. Let's see here. Let's see what other questions. Let's go back up to Ronald again. Not about model, but did you do adjustable desk lamp from Vectric, trying to find a puck light? No, I've never made that adjustable light, but puck lights, those are, I buy my puck lights from Lowe's. Are you not able to find what you need over there for the puck light LEDs? Now, today is the 13th and 14th. Amazon Prime days right now, big Prime discounts and shipping discounts and product discounts and everything. Today and tomorrow would be the 2 days I'd be shopping on Amazon. I just did my holiday shopping. Prime Day was good for me, big savings. But that's where you might find some puck lights on there. And I'm not familiar what size puck lights that they chose for that project. I'm not familiar with that project, but and all that stuff. All right, let's get ready to move on. Lainey, can I get your email? If your question for you, sales, SALES, sales at digitalwoodcarver.com. Fred Grover, sales at digitalwoodcarver.com. Let's see here. Let me see if I'm going to scroll back up a minute and make sure I didn't miss any questions. We had the conversation about Carl making the box for his wife. Let's see here. Can you put a link to the bits in the description if possible? Thanks. Yeah, I'll find some bits, a single cutting bit and multi-thread cutting bit, and I'll throw those in the description of the video. I'll find those later and throw them in the description. I'll do that. All right. So now this is all right. So we got to move on now. We're done with this. Very simple box, guys. You can really elaborate. There's nothing to the base, right? The base is pretty much going to be the same, but the lid is where you kind of get fancy with it, right? Dress it up. And you can dress it up very simply by using the existing models you've got. You can find other models. You can add text. You can do V carving on it. Whatever your desire floats your boat, you know, that's that. All right, let's move on to another project. Let's close this, and we're going to be creating this other project from scratch. So let's start from here. Stand by 1 second. Let me just tell this gentleman that I'm in a class, a new customer that doesn't realize it. Hey, I teach live classes on Tuesday night from 7 to 10. I will not be available to... Oh, hold on. My microphone went off. I hate when that happens. Let's try that one more time. Sorry, guys and girls. Hey, I teach live classes on Tuesday night from 7 to 10. I won't be able to answer your question until 10 o'clock, so I will reach back out to you after then. Okay, thank you for that interruption. Let's go here. Now, this project, I'm going to do some wall hanging art. We're going to do just a very simple Christmas holiday project. We're going to go with a 24 by 24 blank board. That'll be our blank size. 3/4 inch thick is fine. Again, I'm going to reference off the material surface. I usually reference off the machine bed for myself, but for, you know, a lot of people that are just getting started, I want them to, you know, I'm just kind of teaching about touching off on the zero surface here, on the surface of your material. And I'm going to start from the bottom left corner. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And let's see what Chris has to say. Chris says, I bet you could use a 15 to 30 degree engraver and the new chamfer toolpath to create a nice beveled edge. Yeah, because the Vectric software now has, not only do they have the threading toolpath in version 10.5, but they also have the chamfer toolpath to create a nice chamfer. And if your chamfer is too, like, you know, like Chris is saying, 15 to 30 degrees, you can go 60, 90, and your chamfer is based on those angles. And if your chamfer needs to be wider, like longer, then you can use a ball nose bit to create that chamfer cut. But yeah, man, so trying out all these new things is definitely cool. Now on this project here, I'm going to create a circle. Our project is 24 inches, so I'm just going to go 23 inch diameter circle and find the center here and just click. I am going to offset this circle inward, and I'm going to go inward about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, create a little inward area there. And now I want to, what I'm going to do is just going to be a very, like a piece of wall art, a little happy holidays kind of sign, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, fun stuff. So I'm going to go and grab some vectors. So we're going to import an image. And let's see what we've got from our downloads. Let's come down here. I'm going to grab this image, and I can only import one at a time. So we'll import that one. And then I want to import this one here. All right, let's start with our little pine trees and all. Let's get this moved off of our little reindeer. We'll come back to that one in just a second. We'll move him off to the side. All right, so zoom to fit so we can see what's going on there. It's not the best quality image, but I don't need it to be because it's going to be kind of a silhouette. Let's turn our fading off. Okay. And let's come back up here and let's see what kind of detail. I don't want the checkers. I don't want my trees looking too skinny, but I want some detail in there. Let's go. I'm going to go about 26, 27. That's good. I'm going to use the default corner fit, the default noise filter, and I'm going to preview that. Click apply and close. Okay, very cool. Go ahead and get rid of that picture. And let's bring this up here and let's size this up. And let's bring it down here. All right, let's get it centered left to right. Okay, that works for me there. All right, let's look at our next picture here. Let's go ahead and come in here. And let's go into our trace bitmap tool again. On this one here, going to use that black and white trace, turn the fading off so we can see the full glory of this black and white image here. And I want to pull this in about 70% or 70. And again, default corner fit, default noise filter, default fading. And let's go back into full screen. I don't know why you don't need to look at me right now. Let's preview that. Click apply and close. And I'm just going to delete this picture. Now, normally I would come in here and turn the bitmap layer off, the light bulb, to hide the image, but I don't need the images in there. So let's go ahead and size this guy up a little bit. Okay. All right, let's get some text. Let's break some text in here, and then we'll kind of put everything together. Let's go with happy holidays. Let's go with 2, 3, 4, 4-inch tall text looks good to me. And let's go bold. Click apply. Now in my edit text spacing and curve tool, I'm going to come in here between my lines and I'm going to reduce my line spacing. Okay. And I'm also going to come out of that. Let's go back in here. And I'm also going to kind of move this off to the side. And I'm going to move this guy up just a little bit. There we go. All right. Works for me. And let's throw in a couple of other little things. Let's go into the downloads. And these vectors are vectors that are available online. Let's grab this guy right here. Yeah. No, as a matter of fact, let's not grab him. Let's go back in one more time. Let's grab this guy. All right, once again, we're going to open up our trace bitmap tool. I'm going to do a black and white trace. Turn the fading off. Going to come up here and let's kind of zoom into this. Going to slide this up to about 70. 70. And again, default corner fit, default noise filter, preview, apply, and close. Again, I'm just going to select the image and delete it out of there. And let's take this off to the side. Ungroup it. We're going to ungroup it with the ungroup tool. And I'm going to grab this one, group him together, and I'll take him. And let's go with this one here. Group him together. Group. All right, you don't need to be grouped. He's all one item. All right, the rest of these I can get rid of, or I'd save them as a DXF file so I didn't ever have to trace that photo again. All right, so on this guy, let's size him down some, and let's throw him here. And let's take this one, size him down, and let's throw him. Oh, we might have overshot one too many times, but that's all right. Let's size him down. Stop playing. All right, let's get him straightened back out. Size, not scale. There we go. All right. We'll just throw a little snowflakes in there. All right, now we got to do some cleanup, guys. We got to clean up. Steve S., could you include a link for the text? I'll have to find out. It's a company. It's a heritage company, heritage font company. If I can find the link, I'll look back at my receipt and see if they have their website. And if they do, yes, I will put it in there. And they have a whole bunch of collections and stuff. All right, let's clean up our vectors here a little bit. So the first thing I need to do is I need to trim the pine trees to this inner circle. Okay, so I want to trim the pine trees to this inner circle, and what I'm going to do that is, so I don't have to mess with too much, I'll just use my trim tool, and let's ungroup some things. Ungroup. There we go. Always ungroup so you can trim. And let me see if this way is going to be ideal for me or not. All right, so what this brings me to an important topic is saving your work. Save early, save often. So when this unfreezes, I am going to save my work so we don't have to start back over again. A little bit too, I was a little bit too clicky there, and I froze up the program. So let me save this real quick. All right. Let that save out. Okay, now what I was in the process of trying to do was I was trimming away these vectors here, and I don't think that's going to be it's kind of the way I want to go. So it is going to be the only way I can go. All right. But I got to find a better way here. Let's do this. Anything inside my banner, I don't need. So let's get rid of this stuff. Inside my band, not my banner, my band. Okay, on this vector, let's try this again. For some reason, it is not liking trimming today. I don't know why. It's deciding to lock up on trimming a vector. I mean, Lord, we're just trimming vectors here, dude. I think it's my big screen. It's probably my computer too, right? But my big screen keeps screwing up. All right, so let's come in here and trim. Oh, I didn't want to trim that one away. I want to trim that one away and that one away. Okay, let's zoom in here and trim that one away. Now, everything on the inside there and the outside, I want my circle. That circle stays. So now that that vector is cut from up here, I can go all the way over to here. And let's zoom in and let's trim this one. Okay, and this one. That. This guy. This guy. This guy. And then I need my boundary, my Christmas trees to go into my boundary here. So, and we got to zoom in on that one. There's a little guy right there. So these trees are part of that boundary, right? So now that we have that, all of the rest of this stuff down here can be deleted. Hit delete on the keyboard and come back and clean up our little phrase. And this guy right here, we're going to trim away that and that. Now, you know, in the Vectric 10.5, the Vectric 10.5, we don't have to click anymore. You can hold down your left mouse button and just drag over the line. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Just drag over the line and it'll trim automatically. Let's come back over here and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to hold down my left mouse button, and whenever I touch a line and run through it, it should cut it. But that one didn't because it froze up on me. I hate when that does that. Come on now. It'll trim. And I should have zoomed in when I did that. Tisk tisk on me. Okay, Control Z. We don't want to do that. Make sure when you are trimming that you're trimming away the correct vector. And I trimmed away the wrong one. This inner vector here, this is the one that keeps freezing up on. There's something about that vector that it just does not like. The inner one, the outer part of the tree and all that stuff was fine. The inner part is brutal. See, and it keeps deleting my upper part of my circle. So we're going to investigate that. Let's close this first of all, and let's get rid of all this scrap that's out here that doesn't belong. And let's look at our cut here. So this line comes all the way around, and I've got this open vector here. That's a problem. This needs to let it figure it out. It'll figure it out on its own. Come on. All right, there we go. Good. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Let's see here. Can you use the trim object tool? Yeah, so the trim object tool is basically clearing inside or outside a boundary, and it redraws the vectors. And I don't want to do that. I need to trim them away because I don't want to redraw the tree vectors on the inside of that circle. I want to make them part of that circle. So this is going to be the new vector going all the way around here. But the trim tool, it does have its uses and everything. All right, so all of these guys we can leave. We can leave those there. All right, let's come in here and fix this mess. All right, so I need this line to go away. This one, just this one, just this one. And it's probably going to delete the whole circle because I'm probably not overlapped right here. And if it deletes the whole thing all the way around, then no, it did it. All right, let's we got to move on now. Come on, we got times of wasting. I don't know why it's freezing up, guys. All right, one more little trim. Perfect. Okay. And we're going to take these two vectors and join them together. Okay. The reason why I had to join them is because I turned off the rejoin trim sections automatically just to see if that was causing an issue, and it wasn't. All right. So let's make sure that line's not overlapping. It's not. So this vector here now comes around, and then it's the treetops. Okay. It's the treetops. Let's go over here and make sure that comes around. Very good. Okay, so that's going to produce the treetops. So this is one closed vector now. All of that pink that you see there. All right. All these other miscellaneous things, those are inside of the little trees and stuff, and they're fine. But they're not necessary for what I want to accomplish. So all of this little debris down here, we're going to get rid of. Let's see. We'll keep some of them so we have kind of like, it looks like a tree and stuff, but a lot of them we don't want. And this will make sense in a minute. So I'm just selecting and hitting delete. All right. So that looks clean. Good. Now we're going to come in here and I usually don't like putting dates or anything like that on signs and all, because then it dates the sign, right? And I can't use a 2020 sign on 2021 and all that stuff. But let's happy holidays. Let me think how I want to say this. Happy holidays. And then we'll go and let's put those on two separate lines. And let's go with a much smaller text height. And this will make sense in a second. We're just going to go with this text height for right now, and we'll adjust it later. All right, on this one here, I actually want to break this up into this text block that I created, the Parkers. I want to break it into lines of text. I want to break the text block into lines of text. That way I can work with each line of text independently, okay? Because I want to make the Parkers, I want to make Parkers bigger and put it like this. The slight little offset there. There we go. And up here, I want to do the same thing. I want to break this text block into lines because I want to move holidays. I want to move holidays over just a little bit and up like that. I want these two right here to be kind of close together like that. And then that means that by doing that, I need to take my reindeer a little bit and bring him up. I want the little snowflake, that, and I could probably really do without the little snowflake, but that's fine. It looks magical. All right, so we've got our sign here, right? Very quick and simple vectors for the sign. Okay, let's carve it out and everything and see how we go. All right, so on this one, we are going to select this, our snowflake, the little reindeer, this snowflake here, and do I want to do these separate? We'll select it all. Let's see what happens when we select it all. We'll select it all. And of course, don't hold your, there we go. All right. We are going to do a V-carve toolpath on this. The V-carve toolpath, we're going to have a flat depth on this. I want a flat depth of 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. Too many decimal points, 0.125. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit, and I'm going to use a very small end mill to get around a majority of these areas and stuff. I mean, right now I have 1/8 in here, but I'm almost kind of wanting to add a 1/16 to this too to get into those trees really well. So, and for those of you that, you know, do not have a 16th inch end mill in your arsenal of tools, I'm going to recommend one to you. It's just a recommendation. Let me grab it here. I want to give you guys the recommendation of the one with a tall cutting 1/16 inch diameter, 0.25. Almost there. There she blows right there. It is a Mana number 46176. Nope. Scratch that number. That was the wrong one. That was the we do not want that one. Hold on a second. That was the wrong one. That was the wrong bit. Let's do that again. That was terrible. 1/16. There we go. It is tool number, and this one is the correct one, 46125-K. This 16th inch end mill, well, that's the 1/8 inch end mill. Come on, tools today. Quit making me look like an idiot. But that is a good tool too. 46125-K, 2 flute upcut spiral end mill, 1/8 inch with a 13/16 inch cutting depth. Very good bit. 46125-K, but that is not the one that I wanted to give you. The one I want to give you is the 16th. And I don't know the number off the top of my head, so I have to cheat and look it up. So bear with me while I grab the right one. Come on. Tools today. Help a brother out. Don't steer me wrong. All right, I want the 16th inch with a 1/2 inch cutting. That's the down cut. This is the up cut right here. Very nice. I finally found it. Let it load. Okay, this little guy right here is 46009-K. It's a 16th inch end mill with a 1/4 inch shank. Upcut spiral, 1/2 inch cutting height, 2 flute, and it's a nice little bit to have in your arsenal tools. It's an expensive bit. It ain't cheap. And do not drop it on your shop floor because it will shatter in a heartbeat. But it is a nice little 16th inch end mill to get into tight little spots. And things, you know, when you have designs where you got to get that bit into tight little spots, it's a great bit for that. And so 16th of an inch mill I'm adding. So now I'm going to be using an 1/8 inch and a 16th to really clean up in here and all. So in my 60-degree V bit for the V carve. So here we go. Let's calculate this tool path. Couldn't you just separate? Couldn't you just use separate text boxes? Yes, Blue Knight. You could use separate text boxes to create the text. But for me, it's just as easy to type, hit enter, type, hit enter, type, hit enter to create a text block and then break it into text rather than, coming in here in the text box and selecting where I want the, oh, let it finish calculating. Hold on a second. Do, 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 do. Okay, cool. Let me just answer Blue Knight's question. So Blue Knight, rather than, when I'm in my text box here and everything, when I'm in my text box here, it's easier for me to type what I want and just, what have you, and then close the tool and then break this text block into text lines, rather than typing a word and then having to click somewhere else on my screen to deselect that word and then come back and type over here, click somewhere else on my screen to deselect that one. And of course, I didn't get the whole word in there because I clicked too fast. But it's just easier for me to, it's much quicker for me to do it the other way. So, but yes, you can use separate text boxes. Absolutely. No problem with that, whatever. Question. Suicide at all times. I'm going to tease you about the question. When time allows, would you be, what would be a good way to CNC a line with a varying depth starting at 0.03 and ending at 0.05? That would most likely be a fluting toolpath. And I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so let's get rid of this here. All right, let's go look at our 3D view here. And let's give this a Christmas maple look. Maple. Preview the visible toolpath. All right, awesome. Let's do a profile cut. Profile cut. We're going to cut all the way through. 1/4 inch end mill on the outside of the cut. Add tabs and all that, but I'm not going to add tabs because, and for those of you that don't know how to add tabs, you click on the Add Tabs to Toolpath, set your tab width and thickness. And for me, when I do 3/4 inch material, my tabs are 1/8 of an inch. Click on Edit Tabs, and then you can either add a certain number of tabs by clicking the Add Tabs button here. You can throw them in, or you can manually add tabs around wherever you click. And once the tab's on there, if you need to move it, you can drag it. You can hold down your left mouse button and drag it around. If you need to delete it, just put your mouse over it and click on it again so you can delete those tabs. Now, I'm not going to add tabs because I want to be able to cut this project out for preview purposes for you guys and girls. But let's go ahead and calculate this and preview that. All right, awesome. All right, let's paint the board white. Let's use a solid color here. Let's paint the board white. And then let's do a global fill color of like a brown or what have you, something holiday, Christmassy. But, nice piece of wall art, very simple little project, fun kind of things. Simple little things that can, really make a difference, right? We used in this project, some pine tree vectors, a couple of snowflakes, little reindeer, magical reindeer flying with little stars and stuff, and some text. Now, this particular font that I'm using, I will put the link if I can find it. I should be able to find their website. This is part of one of the fonts of their Heritage collection, and it's called the Royal Signage font. And everything. But so I kind of like that font for holiday signs and things like that. But, nice little Christmas. So paint the whole board white, carve it, and then you got to have the fun. This could be just the natural color of the wood, like it could be a walnut, right? Paint it white and in the background be a walnut and everything. you can go in there and paint your letters and all. If you are crafty like that, right, you can do that kind of stuff. But just a very simple holiday project sign. And this doesn't have to be for holiday project. It could just apply to any type of wall art, very simple wall art sign. Now you could even take it a little further and you could chamfer the edge, right? So let's do an edge chamfer, and then we'll do a round over. We'll look at both of them. Now on the I'm not going to use the chamfer tool. Well, I could use the chamfer toolpath. Let's see here. Start at 0. We're going to use a 90-degree V-bit. So it automatically presets the angle based on the bit you're using and everything. If you use a ball nose bit, you can adjust that angle accordingly and stuff. The width and the height, my width and my height, I can, come in here and adjust that accordingly, and it's going to change my maximum cut depth to, what have you. But in this case, I am going to go 0.125. I believe that should be good for a chamfer, but we might go an eighth. We might go a quarter. Now I'm going to be chamfering. So we have our start directions. Basically, the chamfer type. Is it going to be an outside chamfer, or is it going to be an inside chamfer where we're chamfering in from a pocket? This is going to be an outside chamfer. And you can see the direction of the arrows change. That direction changes based on what you chose. It's going to be an outside chamfer, and it's going to slope downwards. It's going to slope downwards. I believe it's going to slope downward. Yeah. All right. So let's calculate that. And I don't know if my profile cut away too much material, because normally there's an offset, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Yeah. So let's look at that chamfer there. Okay. So let's come in here. So the angle of that chamfer is cutting outward this way. I want to go slow upward. Okay, reset that preview and preview. Okay, it's cutting in the wrong direction. So it is going to be an inside chamfer. I don't know why that is, but all right. That's okay. I can fix that. Yeah, it's going to be an inside chamfer and sloping downward. So let's calculate that, reset that preview, and unless that's an optical delusion, that might be it. Let's do a profile cut. And you can see I don't play with the chamfer toolpath. I use the V-bits in the profile cut, and I'll show you that method as well. I haven't used the chamfer or the threading one too much yet. Too much going on right now, and it just came out with it. But let's do a profile cut, and let's see if my profile cut cuts that chamfer away or if it keeps it. Okay, well, that was not what I wanted at all. So that chamfer is going the wrong. All right. Okay, reset that preview. Preview that visible toolpath. Let me look at that profile cut again. There we go. All right. Make that okay. Quarter of an inch deep. It is going to be an inside chamfer. It is going to be an inside chamfer. It's a weird way of wording it. And that pink line is what's throwing me off there. And it is going to slope upwards. We're going to calculate that tool path, and we're going to preview that cut. There's our chamfer there. And then our profile tool path, we'll throw that into the mix. Okay. So that would be our, let's get rid of the colors, and let's go back to a wood color so we can see that defining line. So there's just a subtle chamfer on the edge here. Okay, a little 9-degree chamfer. Let's go ahead and throw the rest of the sign into this. Okay, and so we have a nice little chamfer there. And let's, once again, just for kicks and giggles, let's go back to a solid color and put a global fill in there. And there we go. Right? So you could do something like that. All right. Hopefully you understood what we did here. Very simple layout for a nice wall hanging sign, and it could say really anything that you wanted to say. It could have any kind of design or what have you. But our pocket area, the main key thing to this is the inside circle. If there is some kind of design that you have coming in here, it is tying into that to create this inner pocket. And the top surface here is going to be a flat top surface that's not getting welled away, so we can do something something else, like, you know, putting in the family name, or you know, congratulations on your wedding, or whatever the case may be, because all of this stuff is going to be carved and raised to get that raised effect. It's going to you know, have that raised effect with those angles and all. So it's just a nice looking little piece of wall art. Okay. All right. Now, those are the two projects. Now I want to take the last little bit, and I want to talk about, because I promised the guys and girls I would talk about trimming. So as far as let's answer a question here, and then I'm going to get into talking about trimming the 2440, the digital wood carver units. And so if that doesn't apply to you, thank you for joining me tonight. Hopefully maybe these two little things, those 26-minute little pillbox, rain box, whatever you want to call them, man, hopefully you can knock out a lot of those out of some of your scrap wood, 3/4 inch material, scrap wood, and 3/8 for the lid. And that gives you something to give out to people, right? You know, stocking stuffers, right? All those kind of things. Wondering when exporting G code, when you set the max depth to 0.2, it will output 0.005 plus or minus, if that. Is there a way to set it exact for specific details, for specific detail areas? In which toolpath is that, bud? Are you talking about the actual carving toolpath, this area in here? Suicide at all times? Because that is a flat depth is a limit. It's not a cut depth. It's a limit. I am limiting the V-carve cut. Where am I at here? I was clicking on the wrong screen. I am limiting the cut to 1/8 of an inch. I'm not setting a cut depth. It's a limit. A flat depth is not a cut depth. Cut depths you will find in places like your profile toolpath, your pocket toolpath, your drilling operation, and other things. But there is no cut depth in a V-carve toolpath. A V-carve toolpath only calculates it automatically calculates the depth of cut based on the space between the lines, and we can limit that cut to a certain depth. But let me go back and read the second part of his question. May have been the cutter I selected, as I don't see the Z changing in your art. Yeah, there is no the only Z changing that there is, and let's turn off this toolpath, is my limit is 1/8 of an inch, but in the smaller areas that would not normally exceed 1/8 of an inch, those just cut to their normal V shape. But if the cut was going to exceed 1/8 of an inch, it gets flattened off at that. So I have a variety of depths based on the space between the lines of the cut. And if that particular cut was not going to exceed my flat depth, then it just carves to its normal depth, whatever the V-carve toolpath calculates it to. But there's no variation in my design other than where those closer lines in. This isn't going to be 1/8 of an inch here. This is going to be, if I put my mouse over it, it's only 0.04, 0.0403, you know. This cut here is 0.04. So it's, you know, only the areas that would exceed my 1/8 of an inch get limited to my 1/8 of an inch. It's a limit. And I don't know if that's, I don't know if that was what you were asking. Suicide at all times, but let's see here. Yes, the brown area. If it was mine, I would move it over it. I would mouse over it, and the Z would fluctuate. So when you're in this area, so he's talking about down here at the bottom of the screen, the top of the material is Z0. You see that? As we move into the cut, the Z 0.125, okay? That is these areas here. Now, when I'm varying, when my Z is varying, I'm back at the top of my board, is when I get into these small cuts and things, these small V shapes, because they're not limited to that 1/8 of an inch. They're just cutting to their normal depth and everything. But my flat area is 1/8 of an inch. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right, guys and gals. So maybe you can take something from just those two projects there. Got paint under my fingernails. I'm building a new control box for my CNC, and I just got done painting it and got paint on my fingernails. Green paint, Hunter green, digital wood carver green. Okay. Let's see here. These, hopefully you can, I mean, there's so many different variations, you know, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, joy to the world, Happy New Year, you know, congratulations on your baby boy. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Happy anniversary. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but you know, we want this to be wall art, something that you could hang up and it kind of makes sense, right? So don't date it, you know, unless it's a wedding sign for someone, then you can date it, right? You know, you're dating the day, recognizing the date that they got married. But I wouldn't put, you know, Happy Holidays 2020 on this sign, because, you know, hopefully this will be a nice sign. It'll last. It'll be like a little heirloom, not an heirloom, but, you know, something I can use. It's one of my holiday decorations that I hang up in the house type of thing. Even though my last name isn't Parker, we can fix that. But you know what I mean? So I'm not a big fan of dating things unless there's a specific need for it. But yeah, general projects there. All right, let's see if I can. I got to switch modes here for a second, and let's see if I can go into my SketchUp and see if I can find a file that I drew of the 2440. For those of you that, again, that aren't digital woodcarver customers, I'm talking about tramming that particular unit, the DWC 2440. For those of you that are mini carver owners, there's no tram options other than the router. There's set screws on the brackets that you can adjust those set screws to tilt the router in some way, but that's other than that, there's no tramming on it. But let me see if I can find model that I drew of the 2440 because it's going to be better able to visualize. So let's go into Digital Wood Carver. And would it be downloads? I should have pre-prepared for this, but I didn't. So let's go into our Seagate backup. Okay, what I'm looking for is where they all go. I just had them. Where'd you guys go? I just had you. There we go. Quarter 20 hex head bolt, acrylic, simple design, CNC router with start, miter jogs, hot clamps, rockler, shelf, straight pins. Okay, so it's not in that folder. Oh, my nose is itching. Ooh, my C drive is getting full. Let's see. Documents. All right, it's going to be a little easier for me to do it this way. .skp .sketchup. Let that search. Any questions? Any questions? Let's see here. I may have missed it, but where's your Spindle TV backdrop? Yeah, my Spindle TV backdrop. For some reason, on my green screen, it says, this is the first it's ever happened. It says, your browser doesn't support green screen feature. A graphic processor GPU is required. If your device has a GPU, then it's possible the browser is preventing StreamYard from accessing it. You can often fix this with your browser settings. And I just discovered that in my, I do have a GPU, but my, I just discovered that the backdrop wasn't working at 7:14, and I had to go live at 7:15, which is actually 7:16. So I didn't have time to really dig into it. But so tonight we just have a green painted wall behind me. So green screen. All right. So SKP. .skp. What, now my browser filter is not going to work? Come on now. SKP. Oh, okay. We'll just, there we go. SKP. I just didn't need the dot. Okay, so that's the flag case, joint, miter job. All right, so it's not in downloads. Documents. SKP. All right. Let's see here. Spindle graphics, Craig organizer, jewelry plate, doghouse. Jeff's calendar. I'm working with him tomorrow on that. Let's see here. Okay, it's not in documents. Let's go pictures. SKP. Nothing. All right, so that means it's in my backup drive. SKP. All right, here we go. 24-inch T-track, baseball bat, miterage. You guys don't need to sit here and listen, look at me, watch me. CNC router with Strat. Okay, if I cannot find the digital wood carver, ain't that something? Mini carver mock-up. So there's the mini carver. Let's open up the Mini Carver mock-up. And let's see. Okay, so let me zoom out, make sure that my 2440 isn't in there somewhere. Okay. So on the Mini Carver, guys, there are 4 set screws on these upper and lower brackets. Those will be used to tilt and adjust the router, and that is really all the tramming options you have on the Mini Carver. But that was not, that was the Mini Carver. DWC table right there underneath. There we go. Oh, my nose itches. What does that mean? You're coming into money when your nose itches? Oh. Let's see here. I have been wanting to carve PVC trim board. Are there any special bits I would need to do it, or I can carve with what I already have? Well, I mean, I would recommend an O-flute bit, Brian. Like unless you're V carving or something in that, or if you're taking, I'm not sure what you're doing with that PVC trim board. It's already got a profile on it, so I'm not sure what you're carving into it. If you're carving text, or if you're doing pocketing or grooves or what have you. But if it's like an end mill cut, I would recommend an O-flute bit. If it was if it's V carving all, you could just use your regular bits. Fred Grover says, I thought that was a banner in the background. Was it just an image, Lenny? Yes, it was just an image. Lenny, could you answer Suicidal Time's question when time allows? What would be a good way of CNC a line varying? Line varying. Let me get back to that real quick before we get into tramming. Line varying. Let's create a new layer. Okay. All right. Generally, if I want a line to cut to where it starts at a depth and ends at another depth, then that for me is going to be the fluting toolpath. In this case, you're starting at 0.030 and ending at 0.005. So the start depth, the flute depth would be, and we want to ramp over the entire length. So it would be 0.030 would be your deepest cut. I believe that was what it was, 030. And let's use a 1/4 inch end mill or whatever bit you want to use. But I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. We're going to ramp over the entire length of the line. We're going to just ramp over the entire length of the line. And we are going to do a linear length. And the start depth needs to be, I think he had it at 0.005. 0.005. And if we calculate this, let's reset the preview. And we preview that selected toolpath. Okay. You're working with small numbers here. But it's going to start at that 0.005, and it's going to continuously carve until it gets to the 0.030 here. So I don't know if you can see that shading of that. Let's color that in. But it's going to start at the 050, and it's gradually going to go down and down and down until it gets to the end of the cut at the 0.030. Okay, so once again, your fluting toolpath, your start depth is whatever the shallow part of the line is that you want. Your flute depth is whatever your finish depth is. In this case, it's going to be a ramp over the entire length from one depth to the next. And it's going to be a linear ramp. Now, if you want to start a line at a certain depth and kind of ramp down and then straight across, that would be a ramp at start. If you want to ramp down flat across and then ramp back up, that would be ramp start and end. But in this case, we're going from here to here over the length of this line, and that would be a fluting toolpath. Okay. And in a more dramatic, let's go with 0.005 with a 0.125 depth, just for dramatization. And you know, it's going to start at that 0.05, and then over the length of the cut, it's going to cut down to the 0.125. Okay, so that's, hopefully that answered your question. Suicide at all times, fluting toolpath, or whoever asked that question. Who was it about the yeah, suicide at all times was. Yeah, so it'd be a floating toolpath. Let's see here. I'm just going through some of these questions. I also used a 9-degree V-bit to the same RP and IPM. I'm trying to figure out, trying to discuss of your guys is if y'all are having a conversation with each other, if you're asking, will the laser on the digital wood carver laser work on acrylic for LED edge lighting? Will the laser on the digital wood carver laser work? That's a 6-watt digital laser, so it's not going to cut through. If it's a dark acrylic, then you can engrave in it. You can engrave in it, but you can't engrave in clear acrylic. So if it's got some kind of color or some type of tinting on it, then there's a possibility. You know, it would generally take a little bit stronger laser. But Fred, there's only one way to find out. If you have the laser and you got a piece of acrylic, you got to cover it. It can't be clear. It's got to be black or something. You know, put some vinyl on it or something to etch in, because it'll just cut. It'll just shoot right through whatever we can see through. It can see through. So if it's a dark acrylic, then yes, you could. You know, like a dark or tinted colored acrylic, you could. If so, that was the tutorial, Fred. There is no, it's just your regular toolpath, but the trick of it is you have to have a dark or tinted acrylic. It's just a regular lasering toolpath. And I can do a class on lasering again. There's plenty of I've done, and I can do more. But we can do laser again. All right, let's see here. Perfect. Okay, so that means I answered this question. And my bit is spring-loaded, also to keep even pressure on the glass. Yeah, so a spring-loaded diamond tip bit. Very cool. You can do that. All right. Let's talk about, let's go back into our SketchUp here. And let me zoom out and make sure. Okay, that's just the tabletop. Tabletop extension. Tabletop extension. 4th axis touch plate. Give me a second. DWC router. DWC router. Don't you hate when you forget how you named your files? Oh, that was when I was prototyping the joint making jig. Back in the day. Okay. That's where that joint making jig started from, guys. That was the first look at the prototype. All right, I do not have it, so we got to move on to talk about trimming. So I'm just going to use an actual real photo. I wish I was out in my shop at my machine, but it's just as easy to describe this. Now, what you want to do is it's called a spin test. So you want to use a large diameter bit, and I don't know why that is open. Let me get to where I got to get to. Okay. Hold on, I lost you guys. Let me find you guys again. Oh, you're way over here. Hold on. You got to be over here. Okay, sorry about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 2440 digital wood carver here. All right, so let's go into Vectric, and I'm going to illustrate this in drawing. So let's draw a little pocket, and let's go into node editing mode, and let's insert a point here, insert a point here, and let's select both of those points, and let's create a, oops, I need to create 2 more points. Sorry, insert a point. Insert a point. Okay. And oh, what is going to be the best way? Let's align that up, and let's align these 2 up. Oh, goofball. All right, when you're surfacing and things, when you're bit, you want a large diameter bit. So let's pretend that this is our large diameter cutter. Okay. When that bit comes down, it should be kissing that surface, right? There should be no daylight. It should not be slightly tilted in one way or another to where one side of the bit is digging in more than the other, because when that occurs, that's when you get ridges. So let me exaggerate these ridges for a minute, and bear with me a second. Hold down the control key, and let's drag off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's do some, let me take this up here, and let's do some trimming. Trim. Oops. Let me ungroup these. Bear with me a second. Ungroup. All right. Trim, trim, trim. So trim, 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 trim. I don't need all that. Don't need all that. Don't need any of that. All right. Let's trim this away. Let's trim. Oops, wrong one. Trim that away. This will make sense in about 2 seconds. This is where, you know, holding that Okay. So this is a very rough exaggeration here. But if your surface area has stair steps, and this is an exaggeration of stair steps, that means that the bit is hitting more so on one side of the bit than the other. It's digging in as it's making its passes. It's not hitting flush across the surface. And so that router is either hitting on the left side, the right side, the front, or the back of the bit. So it is hitting and catching on one of those four sides: front, left, back, and front. Back or left, right, back, and front. And so what I always recommend is to do a spin test. That means bring your bit down to the surface of your material, and the wasteboard is great, the MDF is great. Bring that bit down and spin that bit with your hand. Now, you should have a perfect circle. It should scratch a very faint, perfect circle in your material surface, whatever it be. And again, MDF's a good, nice sample board to use. It's nice and flat and all. If that circle is in any way okay, if it's a half circle like this, that means the bit is hitting on the front of the bit, okay, more than the other three sides. Oh, what in the world is all that? If it's hitting, if that circle's on the side, it's hitting on the side. Same thing as if it's, you know, one way or the other, that circle is, if it's not a whole circle, then there's going to be one mark somewhere showing where that bit is making contact, where it's digging in. And you need to find out what direction you need to tilt or shim that router. Now, on the 2440, oops. Can't really zoom in here. You'll have to take my word for it. On the 2440, there's a back plate behind the router. It's what the router is mounted to. There is a back plate that connects the back plate of the router mount to the drive rods up and down. There's 2 bolts at the top of the back plate, 2 bolts at the bottom. If that router is digging in on the front of the bit or the back of the bit, if that circle that you spin test is digging in and scratching heavier on the front or the back of the bit, if it's hitting on the front, that means the router is leaning forward and it needs to be tilted back. If it's digging in on the back of the bit, that means the router's tilting back and needs to be leaned forward. So depending on which direction you need to change, if that router needs to tilt back, you will shim behind the back plate at those lower bolts. You will loosen those lower bolts and you will shim out and drive the bottom of the router out, which brings the top in to level it out. Opposite, if it's kicking on the back of the bit, it's hitting, then you're going to shim out the top of the bracket. All right. Now, left to right, if it's left to right rotation, this bracket here that is holding the router has got 2 bolts that it's bolted to that back plate, and those bolts are on kind of oblong slots. You can loosen those 2 bolts and you can tilt the router left to right. You can shim or adjust that way, left to right. That is how you would tram the 2440. You're either shimming the back bracket out at the top or the bottom, depending on if you got to go front to back, or you're loosening this bracket and you're adjusting and tilting the router left to right to get it. And you want it to be hitting dead level even. That's all there is to it. Now, when it comes to the router table, so an example, All right, so if you're getting these stair steps along the x-axis, that means your router needs to be tilted left to right. If these stair steps are along the y-axis, then your router's hitting front to back. Okay, but do your spin test and figure out which way your circle's spinning. What you want to see is you want to see a perfect circle when you spin that bit, a perfect scratch mark. Okay, and when you do that, what's going to happen is that router is going to be hitting perfectly, and when it mills and surfaces, it's going to create a perfect surface toolpath. So that would, basically eliminate all those angle cuts and create that surface straight cut. Okay, that mirror finish cut. If you're seeing little seashell swirl marks in the bottom of your pocket cuts, if you're seeing seashell, it looks like, well, I call it seashells, where it looks like little seashells overlapping each other, that means that your bit is digging in the direction that it's moving. That bit is digging in. Oops, let's get out of here. And let's tilt this a little bit. So it's digging in. So let's say we were out of tram and my router is moving in this direction. Well, guess what's happening? It is digging in. It's digging in. Boom, 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 boom. It's basically like run across your yard with a shovel sticking in front of you. It's going to dig in and it's going to catch you and you're going to topple over that. Well, there's no place for it to go, but the router's going to get what's called chatter. Chatter, 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 chatter. And depending on how bad your chatter is, you're either getting small little, very faint swirl marks that look like half seashells, or you're getting, you're digging in, those stair steps, right, that we just talked about and things like that. So you want, if your router is perfectly level to your bed, then it won't be. And how you trim is you're going to either adjust the router bracket or the router clamp, one of the two, left to right for the router clamp, front to back on the router bracket. Now, when it comes to, stop that. When it comes to let's come back here and let's get rid of this and let's draw our tabletop here. All right, y-axis. We're talking about the y-axis right now. If I come and zero out my bit on one side of my board of my y-axis, and I move that router straight across, I can raise it up a little bit first, move it straight across, and I tell the software to bring that bit back down to zero, I should be kissing evenly all the way across. Okay? If I am bear with me. If for some reason my gantry, if I come in and touch off over here and I move across and I bring my router to zero over here and I'm still hovering above the wood, that means one side of the table is lower than the other. And on the y-axis, you do not adjust the table, you adjust the gantry. On the y-axis, and again, first make sure your bit is trimmed, right? And everything before you do this part. But on the y-axis, which for us guys and girls, it might be a little backwards view. Our y-axis is our short side here because the operator stands on the left or on the right side of the machine. But if I touch off over here and then I bring my bit up and I come over and I come down to zero and my bit is hovered above this this tabletop and it's not kissing like it was over there, that means my table is not level across. That means this side is lower than this side. So what I have to do is I have to, if this side is lower, I have to raise this side of the gantry to level it out. Okay, so you shim this side of the gantry. If this side is lower than this side, then I shim this side of the gantry, raise it up to level it out. Same thing goes with my tabletop. If I touch off over here and I come down and kiss at the end of that table, and if that table is low on this side, then I need to shim right here where this aluminum bracket is. I need to shim between the tabletop and the bracket here to raise either one end or the other to shim that. And that is it, guys and girls. If you have to adjust your table height to get your table flush to the router, then you adjust and shim one side or the other. This is all done from the factory, so you shouldn't have to. But if you did, this is how you do it. So on the Y or on the X-axis, you shim between the table and the frame. On the Y-axis, you shim the gantry, depending on what you need to do. That has nothing to do with tramming your router. Tramming your router is if your bit is not hitting flush across the surface of your material. If it's not kissing flush across that surface, and there's daylight in there and things, or one side is digging in more than the other, then that means that your router is out of trim and you need to adjust it left to right or back and forth. Okay? And that is it. That's all there is to it. Okay? So for those of you that asked for a lesson on tramming, that's it. That's the DWC, how to trim. Okay, so play this video over and over again in this little short section, and that's it. If you need to call me on the phone, call me on the phone. I'll walk you through it over the phone. But that's how you trim your machine. Okay? All right. That's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9:45. We've been at it for 2 hours and 26 minutes. We're going to answer a couple of questions because either you guys are having a conversation with yourself or you're asking me questions, so I got to go back and look. Fred Grover says, so would the laser work better on wood? And is it the brown paper on the acrylic work for the covering? The brown paper on the acrylic that's that protective coating. It may work for the acrylic. That protective coating. It may work. It's a 6-watt laser. But it may help for sure. No, the laser engraves in different types of materials, leather, wood. You can't really do metals and all with it. It's only 6 watts. But plastic, wood, leather, poster board, cardboard, and things like that. Vinyl, cutting vinyl. But it just has to, for plastic, anything that we can see through, it can see through. And if it can see through it, it's not going to engrave or burn it. So you got to cover it. Let's see here. Use water coil spindle with our spring loaded. Fred, do you have a DWC 2440? Because if you use a water-cooled spindle, normally it's a drag bit, right? Loaded drag bit engraved. So if you want the spindle spinning, then you're actually digging in a little bit more. You're wanting to cut a little more, like if you were cutting tile or stone or something like that. But if you're etching on plastic or engraving, you don't have the router running. So what you need to do is if you have a DWC 2440, I don't know what machine you have, but you would, in your Planet CNC software, you would set up a second profile for diamond drag engraving profile to where the spindle does not turn on when you hit the start button. Steven, what is the smallest bit to use for this test? Small bit is not an option. 3/4 of an inch diameter or more, and God forbid that you use like a white side bit or an Amana bit that has 4 separate cutters. That's not going to tell you anything. What I recommend is a bit that has a cutter all the way across the flute. I'll give you an example here. Let's see here. We'll give a shout out to Magnate here. So on either one. So on this bit here, the flute cutter, let's see if I can zoom in there. The flute cutter runs all the way across the edge of the bit. So when I bring my Magnate bit down to my spoil board, I can see straight across if my bit is making any contact. I can look at it in all four directions and see if I've got any daylight, if I'm digging in somewhere, and also my spin test. Now, if you're doing one of the a Mana or white side bits that have like 3 or 4 separate cutters, you know, if you're using a large diameter bit, then you're going to, on your circle test, you're relying on that circle cut. Okay. Spin that bit by hand and you're relying on that circle cut. I don't like those separate cutters because I have found 2 white side bits with 2 separate customers where on the 4 separate cutters, one cutter was actually lower than the other 3, throwing the whole thing off. It was a bad bit, bad mill, whatever the excuse is. But one cutter was literally lower than the other 3, causing that side to dig in more than oath. And we spent days and days chasing it, and it was the damn bit. I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of it. And, I don't like bit chasing crap, so you're going to be using your circle test and, looking for that perfect circle. And if you're hitting more and more and you chase it and you chase it and you chase it, you need to start looking at the bit. I prefer a bit that the cutter goes all the way across the edge. I don't care what, it doesn't have to be a Magnate brand. It could be anything, but that cutter, I want that cutter going all the way across so that I can see my daylight look. And then also when I'm spinning, I can see that cut that I'm cutting out of there. And as far as the smallest diameter bit, I mean, I wouldn't go any smaller than 1/2 inch. You're kind of wasting your time. You need to be a little bit bigger than that. You want to see how far out your trim. Let's get rid of this. We don't need to give Magnate that much advertising. Okay, let's see here. Not yet, Laney. I'm thinking of getting one. Trying. Okay. CNC Pilot Bro. Yeah, no, that's fine, Fred. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be a digital wood carver owner to be on this channel or anything like that. But I was just saying, if you were, you need to set up a separate profile so that your spindle doesn't come on when you're doing a drag bit operation. Now, if you want your bit spinning, your diamond bit spinning, so it digs in a little bit more in whatever material. Usually you do that for like when you're cutting tile or, and stuff like that. But if you want it spinning, fine. But if you don't want it spinning, you want to use it as a drag bit, then you need that where that spindle doesn't kick on. You need to change your settings or create a separate setting for diamond drag operations. How easy would it be to do a guitar strap? You can laser engrave a guitar strap. You can laser engrave on leather. So it would be just a matter of securing it down and getting your work area, where you want your design and stuff. Let's say that strap is 2.5 inches wide, 3 inches wide, or what have you, however long, and whatever name or whatever design you're engraving in it. You can do that with the laser. Wouldn't be too hard. All right, everybody. Well, listen, it looks like if I missed any of your questions, guys, I apologize. It looks like most of y'all are having conversation with each other. I've gone through and gone back. If I missed any, I do apologize. We'll catch up with it next time. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Now, understand this. Last announcement for you guys and girls before I say see you soon. If you are a Spindle TV training subscriber, your August and September projects are, I've been saying this for a week now, but they're almost done, and they will be going out to you literally in the next day or two. I'm going to be working on them throughout the night and tomorrow, and I should have them out hopefully tomorrow or the next day. October will be out like a week later. So Spindle TV subscriber trainings for the subscribe to your one-on-one training with me. Your projects for August, September, they're on their way. They'll be out in a couple of days. And the last thing is coming up here next week, we're going to have a class next week. But after that, there will not be any live classes. There will not be any Spindle TV classes for the next 3 weeks. I am taking some time off because I have to start preparing for my virtual shows and everything. So let me just make sure I'm right on next week. Bear with me a second. Next week is the 20th. Yeah. So there will be a class next week, but after that, there will be no classes for the next 3 weeks. We'll start back up again in like the second week of November. And then we're going to call it for the holidays and everything. So I hope you guys have great holidays. Enjoy your Halloween holiday coming up if you celebrate that. And then, Thanksgiving, if you celebrate that. Any holiday you celebrate, enjoy them because after next week, other than, seeing me around here, and I'll probably post videos. They won't be live, but though I'll put out some little videos and stuff. But I've really got to start focusing on these live things, and I've got a whole lot of stuff to do. I've gutted my machine, and I've rebuilt a new control box with all kinds of little bells and whistles just because I wanted to do something stupid. And I have to have it put back together before the live event, because the live event is a demo trade show, right? For the world, for Canada, not the world, Canada. So I got to have a machine running. So I got to put my machine back together. So I'm going to be done and everything. And, I'll post out videos, little classes here and there. They'll be short to the point topics and things, but there won't be any live after next week for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then we'll come back. And yeah, I'll miss you all too. But I've got, this is the end of the year where things start getting crazy for me, and I got to get going. But for those of you that are subscribed to Spindle TV one-on-one training, I'll see you in your training sessions when you schedule those appointments with me. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the announcements I had. Until next time, I'll see you next week, and I'll see you soon. Hope you enjoyed tonight's projects and make some wall art or a little box or something. See ya.